Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome back dito sa paborito niyong show, Deep Dive with Ricardo Heydariani. Kasama po natin today is Justice Anthony Carpio. Justice, parang may mga showbiz akong nakita sa iyo. Ano yung, may finorward si Ronald Llamas sa akin na may kausap ka sa phone. What was that all about, Justice?
That's TikTok. A company, a PR company, offered to do it pro bono, so they did it, and it was very good. A lot of praises for what they produced. 8 episodes, yan. So two more to go.
Oh, wait. How many episodes?
8.
8 episodes. Oh my God. You want to tell people what are the 8 episodes about? Anong kwento
Well,
yan?
it's
Anong part?
basically an explanation of the West Philippine Sea dispute, our victory at The Hague, and what we should be doing. Very basic information.
Galing, Justice, no? All kudos to you, Justice. Because obviously people, look up to you as Supreme Court Associate Justice, as I said, the greatest and all. And then, pero di ba sabi ko, Justice, you have to be relatable, di ba? Parati ko sinasabi yan eh. I know some people have issues with my Donald Trump impressions or antics, but I said, we have to be as relatable as possible, Justice. Hindi ba? I mean, ikaw, Justice, you have a stature and then you're doing TikTok now. You
Yeah,
tell me
I have to
about it.
do a TikTok because that's the way to reach the masses, and that's to because that's the medium that the people is using. No?
You meet people where they are, right? As Hillary put
Yeah.
it after she lost. The lesson she learned is you don't wait for people to come to you. You go to them and meet them where they are.
Yes.
So, mabuhay ka, Justice. I really appreciate it. And I hope this serves as an inspiration. Kasi si Ronald Llamas tuwan-tuwa sa'yo eh. Sabi niya, di naman si Justice ka. Sabi ko, excuse me. Sabi ko, dito sa show natin, malit na show natin, dito talaga nakita yung other side ni Justice Carpio. So I said, wala lang yan, ano lang yan. This is just the logical next step for Justice Carpio. So mabuhay po kay Justice. Although I would say sa TikTok, I've had very bad experiences. Mga West Philippine Sea content ko ay nasa censor, nag-log out, I wrote something about it. Do you have any idea if there was any problem with your uploading or
Wala naman. There is no issue.
is it because you said West Philippine Sea in Chinese or Diba?
I don't know.
Or Vietnamese or something. You must have done something to circumvent their algorithm, no? I wonder.
Maybe they realize that if they monkey around with it, the more people will watch it.
Exactly. Baka magkaroon pa ng issue lalo. Kasi even with Vice Ganda, I remember there was an issue with Vice Ganda posting something about Philippines, blah, blah, na may pati yun daw, medyo na-censor and all of that. But, as much as Justice, yeah, I'm sure you enjoyed that experience, do you think we should still seriously look into TikTok in terms of information manipulation, algorithmic manipulation? I don't know if you saw the news in Romania, right? They had to rerun an entire elections because the winner of the first round, there was an intelligence passed to the courts that that person was really backed by Kremlin, and he really shot to fame through TikTok. And there's an allegation that TikTok also really boosted his account, right? There was a bump in his favor. So we have a European Union member country reversing an entire election because of the existing intelligence about potential manipulation and sharp power operation. What is your read on this, Justice?
Well, definitely the Chinese are using TikTok in their favor, getting information data from everybody. But this was an offer to me pro bono, so I said, okay, I'll try it, and it turns out it has gained a lot of traction so far.
Absolutely. So kaya nga sabi ko ng iba, eto naman si Richard, post ng post sa TikTok, tapos pinapaban pa niya yung TikTok. Sabi ko, you can have it both ways, right? Para mga Duterte, di ba? They can have
Mm.
it both ways. So I'll have it both ways. While I'm posting, I will call for its ban. Para habang walang ban, I'm still enjoying the platform. So I'm just saying, we're learning a lot from your fellow Davaoenos, Justice Carpio. Now, speaking of your fellow Davaoenos, eto na, year-ender na tayo, Justice. Patapos ng taon. It's already December 12. I remember back in the day, it was on this day, right, that the cases against former Supreme Court Chief Justice Corona really commenced and all of that. And some people are wondering if this could be another case. But I don't know. A lot of people are becoming extremely skeptical. People are wondering if the administration really wants it. Kahapon may marites sa akin ng mga ibang media contacts ko na baka even in the Congress mahirapan sila to get 106 votes. Nevertheless, having said that, Justice, throughout the week, no, we had two persons who were directly involved in the impeachment. One is Congressman Percy Sardania, who sponsored the first complaint, which we discussed last week. Of course, ang position niya na you have to get the ball rolling kung gusto may paraan. You have to do what is right. Si Senator Trillanes, and I want to hear also your view on that, essentially ang diniscuss namin ni Senator Trillanes, like strategic, no? Sabi ko, why not gawin secret ballot yung voting? And then sabi ni Trillanes, why not yung voting right after elections? In short, yung mga senador na takot sa Duterte backlash, they will not face a backlash if ever they vote against Sara, if the evidence really warrants a vote in terms of impeachment. The argument of Senator Trillanes also was that hindi naman mutually exclusive na gawin ng Senado yung trabaho nila because yung role nila as senator judge could be, sequenced and squeezed into the schedule of the Senate. So you can still do everything that you have to do at the same time in the afternoon or something. You can do the trial for the impeachment. Anyways, so we look at all different angles to make this work. And then I made another scenario analysis. Sabi ko, pwede rin isang scenario, yung impeachment hindi mag-work for political reasons. But in the meantime, you have parallel legal cases against Sara. So even if mag-fail yung impeachment, sa sobrang booking na, allegedly mga kababalagan, once the court cases comes out, there's a degree of legitimacy to that. Anyway, so I'm just saying, Justice, we're looking at 360 degrees, all of the potential scenarios here where the impeachment works or not works or semi-works. What is your read on this, first, in terms of the impeachment complaint? Do you think it still has fire behind it? Do you think it could taper off? And what are the other options to ensure accountability here?
Well, I think we have to look at the timeline because we're now December and Congress will go on recess and the campaign period will start February 11. So there's practically no time anymore. I think they have the numbers to get 1/3 of the members of the House to send it straight to the Senate, but the Senate will have no time to conduct a hearing. So I think the strategy is not really to bring it up to the Senate, but to just bring it up publicly. What are the issues against Sara? Because there's really no more time. It can't happen because when they go on, when the campaign period starts, they'll not be coming back here. They'll be all over the country. So because of time constraints, this will not proceed. But because for tactical reasons, they want to publicize this, so they prepared the articles of impeachment, and this will be discussed. But there will be no Senate trial. I don't think there's time for that.
There's no time for that, or there's no political will for that?
Well, before we talk of political will, we have to talk of the physical possibility, and there's no physical possibility because of time constraint. Also, per my count, there's no 2/3 vote yet. You need 2/3 vote. That's 16 votes, and they don't have that. So I think the strategy is just to air this publicly, and then hopefully in the 2025 election, there will be new people who will be joining the administration.
Well, the latest survey I saw, like number 1, Erwin Tulfo, number 2, Tito Soto, number 3, Ben Tulfo, good morning. Number 4, Bong Revilla, number 5, Willie Revilla. Like, it's quite an interesting, I'm not sure the next Senate will be any significant improvement on the current one if the current trends down. I'm sorry, Justice. I'm just
Well, yes, you're correct there. It's quite difficult for them to get that 2/3 vote. So I think what they will do, and this will not preclude filing the impeachment complaint later on, is they will file it in court. I mean, they will file a criminal case, but they'll probably wait for a new ombudsman. That's April of next year.
Yeah. The ombudsman issue is very important. I'll go to that very shortly, Justice, no? But going back to the to Sara Duterte, what about the cases being filed against her? Potential criminal cases gets filed against her. Because one scenario could be Makati impeachment will never work because even after elections, you don't know you get the right people in. You don't know if they'll even listen to the admin. I don't know what levers of influence the admin is willing to exercise, or will it have sufficient amount of that? But the other thing is, what if the courts will take care of this in terms of if there is really an incitement to sedition or grave threat against the president, or who knows, other potential crimes? What about that track, that
Yeah,
parallel
that
track
can
in a
be.
way?
Well, I think they're moving in that direction also. Uh, that one that will be filed with the DOJ, so they can conduct the preliminary investigation and even proceed to filing it uh, for grave threats. I think that is the more feasible thing to do, and there is no time constraint for that.
It's the courts, and the courts will be independent and they'll take care of it. And in the meantime, it's not like Sara looks totally like a victim, right? Although in her press conference the other day, she was trying to say na naman na demolition job ito, na may kinalaman sa 2020. Wait. Speaking of Sara Duterte, ito naman tayo, Justice, Davao School of Public Relations. Meron din silang bago, Public Relations and Strategic Communications. Ayon sa Davao School of Public Relations and Strategic Communications, ayon nilang, hindi, kaya nga may mga piatos and Sally and all of these names because tinatago nila yung mga totoong pangalan dahil mapahamak itong mga tao na to, Justice, dahil confidential nga, di ba? Kaya pati mga pangalan, dapat confidential. Kaya itong Mary Grace Piatos ay alias lang yan ng mga assets na kailangan nila para maimbestiga yung mga terorista or NPA. Ano masabi mo dyan, Justice?
Well, we have a case that we filed in the Supreme Court against the Vice President. We asked her, please tell us how you spent the 125 million, uh, because under the Constitution there must be full public disclosure when you spend public funds. And her reply was, "There's an EO signed by my father that there's people have a right to information on all matters except confidential funds." So we are now in the Supreme Court where we're asking the Supreme Court to declare unconstitutional the EO because the Constitution says the people have a right to information, full disclosure on matters of public interest, and there can only be an exception if there is a law passed by Congress providing for reasonable limitations. Congress has not passed a law.
For the reasonable limitations.
Yes. So then the general rule will apply that you have to disclose fully how you spent your budget.
Can't Marcos sign a new EO requiring?
No, because the Constitution says unless a law, that means Congress must pass a law. An EO will not suffice because that's not a law, and that's our point. An EO cannot substitute for a law because the Constitution says there must be a law. And I think that's a very strong argument. I think we will win there. So what Congress should do is to enact a law now, uh, rather than investigate whether the piatos or these people are real or not, because there is no exception, reasonable exception provided by law. So the general rule applies. There is full public disclosure of how you spent your money because the Constitution says, okay, there can be reasonable limitations, but there must be a law providing for those reasonable limitations. So I think Congress is a little bit off here because they're assuming that there is a law, but there is no law. In fact, they can demand full public disclosure. And so this, and of course, the vice president saying, no, I'm not going to explain. And that that runs afoul really with the Constitution. But of course, that case is still pending in the Supreme Court.
What, why aren't they enough constitutionally minded lawyers here in the Congress to look at this potential angle that actually mahina yung excuse ni Sara dahil yung EON na to ay hindi backed up by specific legislation on the on legitimate limitations on confidentiality?
Well, I don't know why they have not brought that up, but I think they also want to know. They're probably interested to know if there's really a person named Mary Grace Piatos.
Well, I mean, the PSA has helped us, but just as you were giving them a chance, right? Kasi sabi mo sa Davao may piatos na double T. Ay, wait lang.
But
Single T, sorry, single T.
with a single T.
Single T, yeah, exactly. Single T. Medyo mahabang usapan yung Piatos na yan. But ngayon, meron din yung Sally and ano ba, Grace ba yan or something? Hindi, Sally and something like that na parehas yung signature. Meron din yung isang tao maraming signature na iba. So I don't know. I mean, it's becoming crazy and ridiculous. What is the COA report talaga on Sara Duterte's fiscal practices? From what you
Well,
understand,
it
Justice?
was disallowed, officially disallowed. That means if it's disallowed, uh, you have to pay back.
Yeah. So now speaking of this justice, what do you think should the Congress do if malabo itong impeachment na ito? Tuloy-tuloy lang itong mga Quadcom hearings na ito until election time? Is that the way forward?
Well, Congress can proceed with their law, providing for reasonable limitations. Uh, but I want to bring up something, Richard,
Yes, Justice.
because there's a difference between intelligence fund and confidential fund. Now, in the case of P.A. Amari, the Supreme Court, and I wrote the decision, uh, if funds spent for intelligence funds uh, are protected by the doctrine of privileged communication because that involves national security or military secrets. But this is for the military only, and for our diplomats, they have a form of privileged communication. If they spend money to get information involving military secrets, uh, that cannot be revealed. I
Oh, kasi
mean,
ma-reveal yung procedures nila, assets
yeah,
nila,
yeah, assets
booking
nila.
nila. Yeah.
But this is only on intelligence matters or diplomatic matters. Iba yung what the VP is saying. She has some safe houses, etc. But she has no military function. She has no intelligence function. So difficult for her to justify that, no? And
What about
so
yung
that's why
sinasabi
they call it confidential fund. But there is no law. That's the problem. So what I'm saying is, the 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 president's intelligence fund is protected here because we have that decision already. We have carved out an exception for intelligence fund used for military secrets. You cannot inquire into that, the expenditure of those funds. But it's only the president who can do that because he's the commander in chief. The vice president has no military command. So it's only the commander in chief who can authorize the expenditure of funds to gain military secrets, intelligence funds for military secrets. So it cannot be invoked by the vice president unless there is a law, and there's no law on
Unless the excuse
confidential
is,
funds.
again, but the excuse that was that as DepEd Secretary, because may NPA infiltration daw ng education sectors, kailangan na protektahan yung mga bata. So in a way, naging auxiliary defense department ang DepEd ayon sa kanila. Di ba yun yung argument nila, di ba, Justice?
Yeah, but it turns out that they really had no intelligence operations. I mean, even they tried to link up with the AFP, but the AFP said, no, we did not get money from you. We spent it ourselves. So it's difficult really for them to 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 justify, because based on their uh, statutory function and constitutional function as DepEd, they don't conduct intelligence operations.
Hindi nila mandato yan.
Yes, it's not their mandate.
Yun nga eh. I mean, dami nilang palusot and all of them are so flimsy. But of course, the reality here is that umaasa pa rin sila dahil sa kanilang political capital at saka takot ng ibang senators for this not to move forward. Um, Now, last week when we were discussing Justice Carpio, a certain religious group was signaling that they could get involved here in behalf of Sara, but it looks like pati yun nag-taper off din. Parang lahat yata nagsisignal lang and nothing. Medyo kulang tayo sa follow-through culture, no? Everyone is just posturing, right?
Yeah, well, for any religious group to intervene in a legislative function of involving legislative inquiry, I think it's already interference. I mean, there's separation of church and state, and they cannot say that Congress should not conduct a hearing.
Can we
So I
expound on
think
that, Justice? Yeah, can we expound on the doctrine of separation of church and state? Because I hear a lot of interpretations on that in the sense that, I mean, it's like historically, for instance, the Catholic Church has been influential, right, in shaping our political, landscape. Importantly, in the case of Edsa Dos, for instance, right, among other things. What does really the separation of church and state preclude? Because obviously it means they cannot be a state religion. The state cannot prioritize or privilege one religion over the others. So it's about the pluralistic fabric of a democratic society. But obviously our separation of church and state is not like France, right? When it's more like parang freedom from religion, right? Like in France, they're very strict to make sure there's no expression whatsoever of religious sensibilities within public space, etc. Ours is more American system. But can you explain, ano ibig sabihin ng separation of church and state aside from the fact na hindi nagbabayad ng buwis yung mga religious groups, some of the privilege they're enjoying under that?
well, the basic is that the state cannot officially support a religion. You cannot establish a state religion, and you cannot spend money for a state religion, and you cannot give benefits to a state religion. Of course, we have a problem there because there are two religions that have acquired licenses, TV licenses, radio licenses.
Yun, yeah.
But nobody has questioned it so far, no. So, but
Actually, yeah.
yeah, that could be a problem uh, because they're using the airwaves to propagate their faith, no, their religion. But there's many gray areas. But basically, one religion, one group cannot say Congress should stop its legislative inquiry. I think that's clear. I mean,
Interference.
it has nothing to do with religion. Stopping Congress from doing that has nothing to do with religion.
According to the Robin Hood School of Constitutional Law, Justice Carpio, yung pag-arrest kay Kibuloy back in the day was a form of violation of separation of church and state. I think even the great Cynthia Villar was making arguments along those lines. Anong base niyo on the Kibuloy case? Like for instance,
Well, the charge against him is a violation, a a crime, a violation of the revised penal code. So there's nobody who is exempt. I mean, a priest cannot be exempt, a cardinal cannot be exempt for violating the revised penal code. So I don't think that that will pass.
now, Justice, this is totally unrelated to the topic and all. But speaking of lawyers, ano bang latest ulit? Ito na naman every week, nasaan si... Because according to Congressman Percy, hindi siya magtataka kung Morocco na. Sabi niya, I'm sure it will be a great place. Si Senator Trillanes kahapon sabi niya, baka Dubai. Hindi na Abu Dhabi, pero Dubai. So, kasi wala na siya nag-live ngayon eh. So, iba siguro yung time zone niya. Hindi na kami magkakatapatan. Justice, meron ba ka tayong balita kay ex-human rights lawyer kung ano na?
No,
Anong
I really
geolapin?
don't have info on that, on his whereabouts.
Dapat gawa tayo ng TikTok series na Sansi. Parang yung mga, where is Doris? Parang mga ganun. Parang, where is Doris
Where
in
in
the
the
world?
world is
Where in the world? Like, gawa tayo ng ganyan series, Justice. Tapos tawag ako every series. Justice, balita ko may ganyan-ganyan, di ba? Saan po yung mga extradition, di ba? I have already a TikTok idea, Justice. Let's make something soon. Nasaan si ano? Nasaan si Doris? Um, Kung, kasi Justice, the reason I'm asking it because tuwan-tuwa si Panelo ngayon. Panelo is having a great moment. I mean, he's shining. He's in the Congress, he's in the Senate, and he's giving weird interviews. Hindi ba illegal for him to come out and say essentially na may gusto magkuku yung mga nasa military? I remember there was one interview he had with I think Bilyonaryo or something na parang sabi niya na maraming discontent dyan sa military, ganyan-ganyan. Isn't that incitement to sedition, Justice? I mean, or is that just normal expression of Duterte freedom of expression? I mean, what's going on there?
well, inciting to sedition is has a very strict meaning. Uh, by uttering words, you're immediately inciting people to commit lawless violence. Wala namang nakikinig sa kanya. Yun ang problema. He cannot be inciting to sedition because nobody takes him seriously. That's the problem there. And in fact, that's a defense if he's
Actually,
charged.
Senator Trillanes, who comes from a military background, and you know, he has his way of thinking. Senator Trillanes was even more unvarnished in his legal analysis. I mean, well, he's a clown, so he can never be taken seriously. So ipso facto, he's disqualified from inciting to sedition. Like, but I'm just saying, just because ano klaseng bansa na someone just goes, eh, then gusto magkudeta mga yan. Like, it's this, di ba? Kasi back in the day, they were accusing all of us of being destabilizers. Sasabihin lang natin, bakit ang tamat ni Digong, destabilizer na tayo. Bakit si Digong nasa Davao na naman, destabilizer. Eh ngayon, he's open, you know. So what you're saying, Justice, is if no one takes you seriously, you can say whatever you want. Is that
Because nobody is incited. I mean, your words, your utterances must cause immediate action on the part of the one who hearing you.
oh my,
They
ang
will
laking
commit
problema
lawless
pala.
violence.
So kaya
Wala
pala ganun
namang,
yung mga tao ni,
nobody is persuaded.
so pala ganun yung mga tao ni Digong, so strategic pala yan kasi walang siseryoso sa kanila. Si Aguirre, nasaan na si Aguirre? Si
Well,
Just
he's quiet now.
I'm just saying, oh ano, no one, ang sakit naman ng Justice, no one takes him seriously. Parang, what about if si Harry Roque nagsabi yan, Justice? You think he'll be taken more seriously para ma-hurt si Panelo? Sabihin mo na lang na mas serious si Harry.
Well, but if nobody is incited to commit a lawless violence, wala rin. I mean, that will be their defense. Nobody really reacted.
Yun lang. So tama rin pala eh. Meron parang leeway ito si Panelo. Ang laki pala ng room for maneuver niya along those lines sa Justice. Basta yun na guys, Finding Doris. Ano, meron tayong series every week. Tinatanong ko. Now, Justice, let's transition a little bit to less depressing things. But still depressing. Kamusta ang West Philippine Sea in terms of itong bagong baselines legislation na pinasa ng China? Anong kinalaman ito sa atin? Ito ba ay nagpakita ng China ay nagre-recalibrate? Ito ba ay nagpapakita ng China ay more agresibo? Ano pong basa niyo dito?
Well, it's a very clever move by China because China is saying that we have drawn straight baselines around Scarborough Shoal. Now, you can draw straight baselines if you have territorial sovereignty. Ngayon, if we engage China, you cannot draw straight baselines because under UNCLOS only normal baselines can be drawn. Then we impliedly accept that they have territorial sovereignty. So what we should attack is
Ah,
you don't have territorial sovereignty.
to put
You
even
cannot draw
baselines.
any kind of baseline, straight, crooked, or normal, or archipelagic. You cannot do that. So yun dapat ang attack natin. Kasi the moment we accept their premise that they can draw straight baselines, although the baselines are not correct, it should be normal, not straight, patay na tayo, we admit. So
You
what we
play
should do
into
is,
their narrative already.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We should be very careful because what we are attacking really is that they cannot draw straight baselines, only normal baselines. But the point is they cannot draw anything there because they don't have territorial sovereignty. So this is the chance for us in our reply when we submit our response to the UN in a note verbal to explain why we have territorial sovereignty. Maiipit sila because they have opened up the issue of territorial sovereignty. So we will say we have territorial sovereignty because that was in the map of the Philippines since 1734, 1808, 1875, that it's part of, and the U.S. said it's part of the cession in the Treaty of Washington of 1900. So we will put all our arguments already, historical, legal, everything, mapipilitin sila to reply. So we can engage them because they don't want to submit this to arbitration. This is the nearest thing that we can do to bring them to this a legal discussion on why they're claiming territorial sovereignty. So our response should be that you cannot draw any baselines, whether straight, normal, or anything, because you don't have territorial sovereignty. We have territorial sovereignty because of this. We've claimed that since 1734, etc., etc., and we'll wait for the reply. They'll be forced to explain why they're claiming territorial sovereignty.
So essentially what you're saying is that yung baselines na ginawa nila was to trap us into their narrative so that we argue on their terms.
Yes,
We can do is we question the very foundation of their
yes,
narrative, which is, wait, what claim are you talking about? It's because they always say we have inherent and indisputable
yeah,
claim,
yeah,
and now we question that inherent and
yes,
indisputability by coming counter argument. That's a very nice way of putting it. Do you think
yes,
are
because
people are communicating along those lines so far? Yung mga responses from our government agencies.
not exactly along those lines. So I'm trying to explain that we just have to attack the very basis
Oh,
of
yung
their,
premise. Oh.
yeah, premise nila because this is a clever way for them.
They are very subtle. In fairness, I'll give that to China, unlike the Russians, right? The Russians are not subtle at all, right? But at least the Chinese are very subtle. So accordingly, this could be a response. Parang, oh, gusto mo makipagdebate ng territory? Let's go. Actually, kami may ebidensya. Kayo nga wala eh. Puro kayong inherent and indisputable.
Correct,
Kasi mambo
exactly.
jumbo. Exactly. So we can now push them into our game and say, oh, thank you for
Yes,
opening the space. We can actually come from here. So that's
yes,
very clever counter punch, no? Justice. What about in terms of precedents? Do you see this as a beginning of similar mumbo jumbos around other disputed features? Sabina Shoal, for instance. I don't want
yes,
to give ideas to China, but I'm just thinking ahead, two
yeah.
steps ahead here.
Well, China is moving, the dispute now is moving from maritime to territorial because even in Pag-asa, the Chinese maritime militia are staying, loitering in our territorial sea 24 hours a day, almost the whole year. So it is now, we're now moving towards the territorial dispute because they're not only claiming our maritime zones, EEZ, but they're now moving into the territorial sea. So that's why we should be prepared now to engage them uh, on the territorial issue. But you know, Richard, we have a problem because uh, if you if you ask the DFA, if you look at the statements of the DFA, they've been saying we base our claim in the 1956
Mm,
discovery of Tomas Cloma of
Colomas.
the
Yeah,
Spratlys. But that will erase the 1734 Murillo Velarde map.
right.
I mean, the Spaniards claimed it in 1734, 1808, 1875. That will erase the Treaty of
The
Washington.
erasure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a narrative that's compelling because we have this. You have former Solicitor General Estelio Mendoza, saying that we only claimed the sprat list in 1978 when President Marcos issued PD 1596. And you have Enrile saying uh, those islands are outside the treaty lines, that's Treaty of Paris line. So let's not talk about them. And you have Father Bernas saying that they're outside the treaty lines. Let's look for a basis under international law because there is no treaty law giving it to us. So we don't have a common narrative. We have various kinds of narratives, and that's why if you read, I've been reading the law journals abroad, and the scholars are saying, legal scholars are saying, we have the weakest claim because we start in 1956. I mean, we have to have a common narrative. We have not established that yet.
Medyo sabog, medyo bazaar, medyo
Yeah.
anything goes. And again, maybe that's great within an academic workshop, right? We can have that, somewhere summer school PhD academic workshop. But this is a national narrative issue, especially when you're against Vietnam and China, all of them claiming hundreds, if not 1,000 years of claims, right? It
Yes,
doesn't make sense for you to
precisely,
shrink
Edward.
your claims
That's
based story.
and we have to agree on a common narrative now because we have to respond to this note verbal of China on Scarborough Shoal. When we discuss the territorial issue, we have to establish why we are claiming territorial sovereignty. We have we have to be very precise here, and we have to agree what is our story right now. It can start in 1734, 1956, 1978, or we're still finding the reason now. Or we really will say, let's not just talk about it. I mean, what is really our position? As a nation, we
Mm.
must have a common narrative.
Obviously, Justice, you have been at the forefront of helping to forge a common narrative. I suspect some people are maybe just jealous that why is Carpio the one shaping this narrative? Why should Carpio? So I'm not saying yun ang nangyari, but I'm sure some people maybe they have more rivalry or professional envy or jealousy. I'm not gonna name names. But I think you're right in the sense that some people are not realizing that they're inadvertently, if not, maybe intentionally, actually reinforcing China. Yun nga yung hindi ko maintindihan, Justice, eh. Bakit we should be so pluralistic and democratic in questioning our own claim, and at the same time, we take China's claims on face value? That's what I noticed with the pro-China people,
Yes.
right? Ang galing nila mag-deconstruct ng arguments ng Pilipinas. But pero pagdating sa China, they'll take it on a face value. Yeah, they were there since the Han Dynasty, I don't know, whatever dynasty, Admiral Zhang He was there, ganun. Parang, wait, why are you not deconstructing the Chinese side, but you're immediately disconstruct because hindi ko na pangalanan yung isang columnist nung isang newspaper na parati na sa front page. Sabi ko, dapat cartoon section yata yung arguments niya. But, di ba, Justice, it's ridiculous, especially you're up against authoritarian countries whereby there's not really a freedom of academic discussion there. Now, I'm not saying we should be like that, but that's also my point, Justice. How can we, as a pluralistic democratic country, responsibly come up with a national narrative that at the same time is consistent with international law and arbitral ruling and our constitutional principles? How can we do that?
Well, my proposal is that the government, all government agencies, including the private sector, should sit down. We'll get the historians, the legal experts to 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 agree on a common narrative because I've presented it. I have a proposal. You have Enrile. He has his position. Father Bernas has his position. Uh, uh, the Estelito Mendoza has his position. So, and the people supporting Tomas Cloma, they have their position. So, let's decide which is the best for the Philippines. What is the best position that's in accordance with history, in accordance with international law, and which is factual.
The Philippine Historical Commission and DepEd also get involved because
Yeah,
eventually you want this to pass on to the children and to the next generation, right?
yeah. So the historical commission should be part of this. The DFA, the NSA, uh, DND, we should all sit down and decide. And the clock is ticking because we have to respond to that note
Yeah.
verbal of China. We cannot just say we have territorial sovereignty and that's it. I mean, we have to convince not only China but the rest of the world.
I wonder, Justice, given how we were at the forefront of operationalizing international law, we were the first country to take this case of the West Philippine Sea to international court. I mean, yes, I know there was 6 years of Duterte, and I'm the last person to ignore the damages it has done. But you would have imagined that what? Almost a decade after we won that arbitration case, and more than a decade since we filed that arbitration case back in 2013 January, we would have come up with something along the lines of a kind of a coherent, let's just not say,
Mm.
perfectly unified, but coherent at least. Coherent. Kasi I don't see coherence. I mean, totally iba yung implication ng sinasabi ni Enrile, sinasabi mo, sinasabi nung puro mga Marcos crony, mga iba. And then some academics and all. Like, just what's going on here?
Yeah, that's why we just have to sit down now, and the the historical commission, the DFA, and the DepEd should spearhead this.
And Justice, speaking of maps, of course you're doing your job. The other month we were together for that fantastic event of you passing down a very, very important map that also helps us to contextualize the Treaty of Washington and also your argument against the other side. Now itong map ng Velarde kay BBM. Nakita ko yung pictures, even the ambassadors from our key allies were posting about it. Anong kwento dito? Kasi people are asking about the Velarde. Hindi ito Mark Velarde na yung sino yung Mark Velarde, yung parang showman. Hindi, ito yung Velarde map. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Justice?
Well, the importance of this map is this is the first map, official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime. The first official map ever of Philippine territory. This was made in 1734, and there you can see Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys as part of Philippine territory. I mean, that's the significance of this. So everybody, our story should start from this, because the earliest map, official map, made during the Spanish regime, showing Philippine territory, and it's there. Scarborough Shoal is called Panacot. The Spratlys are called Los Baos de Paragua. And there's no dispute. It refers to Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys. So our story should start from this with this map. This is and nobody else claimed Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys until 1933. France was the first outside of Spain to claim the Spratlys, but France gave up, abandoned it. Then Japan claimed it in 1939, established a submarine base in Ituaba. But of course, Japan lost the war and renounced its claim. It was only in 1947 that China claimed the Spratlys. So if you start 1956, you're way behind. I mean, you're late in the party. If you start 1978, as what Stelito Mendoza is suggesting, you're even
You're not even
very
inside
late.
the party. You're at the door waiting for it. It's like, hi, baka naman gusto niyo. You're a party crasher, gate crasher. I completely see where you're coming from, Justice. Maybe, unfortunately, some of our friends are more interested in, I don't know, moot and academic debates or whatever. But going back to this, Justice, again, this might come off as a amateurist question, but for the sake of education, sasabihin ng iba, bakit natin gamitin yung claims ng Espanya? Eh, di ba pinaalis natin sila? Di ba kalaban natin sila? Hindi ba colonial power sila? Bakit natin basihan yung gusto natin para sa ating bayan? Sabihin natin, ang boses ko, Robin Hood Padilla. Ayaw natin sa mga dayuhan. Ayaw na nga mag-English, di ba? Hindi naman tayo Amerikano. So kung gamitin ko yung logic ni Robin Hood Padilla, bakit natin gamitin yung mapa ng mga Espanyol? Di naman tayo Espanyol eh. Mga kalaban natin yan. Oh, Justice, paano mo ma-explain yan?
Pag hindi natin gamitin yon, wala tayong panglaban sa China. Ang mapalabas lang natin yung mapa natin when we became independent, 1946 na yon. that's way after France, and Vietnam is using the French claim. Vietnam is saying we are the
Exactly.
successor.
Right.
So matatalo tayo
So we're talking
because
about successor state systems, right? So you're not talking about
yeah,
ano, lahi. Yung estado natin ngayon ay base doon sa estado ng ginawa ng mga
yes,
Espanyol dito, the Spanish East Indies. So
yeah,
yun yung logic ng claim natin based on international law, right? Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, there is a state succession, and even Vietnam is using that. I mean, why should we deprive ourselves of that argument, of that legal basis?
Justice, how important is this? Let's just call it for what is it? For it, what it is, map wars. Aside from legal claims, how important are these map wars? Is it also a psychological information warfare issue for you that I think that you think we should? Because to be honest, Justice, I see a lot of parang civilizational hubris, if not contempt, when not only China but some other, parang they talk as if, kayo mga Pilipino, di naman kayo, you're not an old civilization. You're just a former, colony, something. Kami, we are grand civil. May ganun di ba? There's this kind of a snobbery, if not dismissiveness, and contempt for post-colonial nations like the Philippines. Are you saying that these maps are important for us to recenter our sense of identity also and our sense of depth of history?
Yes, because the Treaty of Paris, said uh, the Philippine territory are the islands within the treaty lines. When the Americans came here, ang dami palang isla belonging to the Philippine archipelago lying outside the line. So nagkaroon ng second treaty, Treaty of Washington. And it says, the Treaty of Washington says, Spain also ceded to the U.S. any and all islands belonging to the Philippine archipelago lying outside the lines of the Treaty of Paris. So ang question ngayon, what are those islands of the Philippine archipelago lying outside the lines? Where is the document? Where is the map? There is only the map. And that map is the 1875 Carta General, the most complete map during the Spanish regime, and which the Americans adopted it as the official map of Philippine territory during the American regime.
Commonwealth.
And in fact, in that arbitration case between the Netherlands and the U.S. submitted the map, that this is the map of Philippine territory under the American regime and under the Spanish regime. So these are important because this tells us where are the islands of the Philippine archipelago lying outside the lines. Where do we look for that document? That document is the map.
So hindi ito yung cartoon nag-drawing lang yung mga bata
Hindi,
kasi
hindi drawing.
people tend to be dismissed like, oh, maps kaya ng China yan. They will make all the fake maps in the world, right? Diba? So I just want to impress upon people, and in fairness, Justice, that's where our respect and love comes for you, because ikaw talaga, you paid a lot of attention to it. And I'll be honest, I was at first a bit skeptical of this map wars. I said, no, at the end of the day, it's about effective and exercise of sovereignty, right? It's about effective control. Do we have troops there? Do we have, that's also true. But what you're doing is also true, right? I mean, so we have to fight this war on multiple fronts, because yung mga ibang bansa, kung ano nang sinasabi nila, and rightness is on our side. Did you manage to meet the president? Because I saw the picture of him with the Velarde map. Do you know anything
Yeah,
about the
we
president?
greeted each other, we shook hands.
I don't want to put you into trouble. No, I mean, I didn't mean it like, did you love BBM? Was he great and amazing and the most? No,
No,
I don't
it
mean.
was
No, like,
very
what was
cordial.
your
Yeah.
sense of the man? What is your sense of the man in terms of this issue?
Well, he spoke there, and he repeated what he's been saying, that we will assert the arbitral award. We will defend every square inch of Philippine territory. We will do it through peaceful means. We will not go to war. We will go to the courts. I mean, that's what we should do.
Kulang sana and we will not follow my legal advisor Enrile who backstabbed my father and now he's here backstabbing. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I'm just saying, Justice, if I were there like, sir, para may kulang, may hindi ba kayong sinabi? Last part, Justice Carpio, thank you so much for making time again. Grabe ang traffic nowadays, so sorry for starting a bit later than usual. Justice, last point on this, as far as our West Philippine Sea discussion is concerned. What should be the next steps forward, Justice? What are the things that we should do with 2025 coming, with a new American president coming? What are the things we have to do on the West
On
Philippine
the
issue?
on the West Philippine Sea,
If
Well,
there's a roadmap, yeah, you want to put the next
well,
phase.
we should, as I said, we don't know what's in the mind of President Trump, but everybody down the line, from the cabinet to the House of Representatives, they are all on the same page as far as China is concerned. So we just have to engage our American friends to 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 know what's happening there, and we should continue to expand our relationship, our security relationship with other countries. With, of course, there's a pending reciprocal access agreement with Japan. We should pass that already. We have we can, and France and UK are interested also. We can do that. We have already with Indonesia, with Australia. So we should, because we really don't know. Trump said in that YouTube, you can see him in YouTube saying, we cannot blame Russia for invading Ukraine. I mean, wow, that was terrible. I mean, he might
Kawawa
say we
naman ang
cannot
Russia.
blame,
Kawawa naman ang Russia.
yeah,
Kawawa.
he might say we cannot blame China for grabbing the islands of the Philippines.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? But we have to be prepared for everything. That's why we should strengthen our security ties with other countries. We cannot put all our eggs in one basket. Well, that's what I'm saying.
And two additional things. One is, parang dapat sinabi mo, Justice, itong mga troll farms, itong mga walang yung, sorry, ito yung mga troll na alam mo naman na talagang saan galing yung renminbi, ay sorry, saan galing yung livelihood nila. Should something be done on that front, Justice? Itong mga, obviously, they're towing the line of China and trying to create disinformation and sow division in the Philippines. Should we do something about it, or wala lang? We just have to beat the fake news with our own news.
Well, we have to counter that because we are a democracy. So we have to keep on talking like this to explain to the people. That's how we fight
So yung
them.
marketplace of ideas pa rin yung
Yes,
doctrine mo.
that's true.
Okay. So paras pala kayo ni Harry Roque. Kasi di ba yun yung argument niya, marketplace of ideas. And Justice, parang sama natin, no? We never talk about ASEAN na. Medyo matagal na natin. May paki ba tayo sa ASEAN? Because Malaysia will be the next ASEAN chair. In fact, I think baka Sabah pa yung maging summit ng ibang Sabah. Hopefully wala sa Sabah. Baka si Robin Hood, magsasalita naman si Robin. Matapang yan sa Sabah eh. Pag Sabah, biglang matapang si Robin Hood, di ba? ASEAN, may magawa ba tayo? What should we do with Malaysia as the ASEAN chairman?
There will always be a veto by three countries. We
Natin
have
pangalanan, wag natin.
Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar will always vote in favor of China. So we cannot get consensus, and ASEAN operates by consensus. So that's a big problem. So we can keep on talking about this in ASEAN, but we should not expect a lot from that.
Wag na umasa. That's a very nice way of putting our relationship sa ASEAN. Para hindi masaktan. Wag umasa para hindi masaktan. Hello again and goodbye. Kumbaga, parang yung bagong pelikula. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio, for another really comprehensive discussion. Gusto ko yan kasi parang spontaneous lang tayo, di ba? We started with, I don't know, saan pa tayo nagsimula? Nakalimutan ko na. Then we went to Harry Roque and we end up with ASEAN. I mean, that's amazing. The greatest, the greatest.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, baka next year puro ganyan na tayo magsalita dyan. Justice Carpio, what do you think? Si Justice Carpio, well, I think, dapat may TikTok series tayo, Justice. Puro tayo mga Donald Trump magsagot. Justice Carpio, 8 Nasaan si Harry? Is Harry in Dubai or in Morocco? Wait lang, baka iba yung bigyan ng alagay mo. Wait. Okay. Delete. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio. Magpahinga po kayo. Thank you so much, people. Really appreciate your intervention. And see you soon, God willing, Justice. And hopefully we can have our own Tres Marias with Ronald.
Okay.
I think that would be great. See you soon. Have a good night, Justice. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.